Hello and welcome to Be Your Best. We're glad you could join us. So, today's episode is going to be about stress. So, you can't be your best if you're stressed. But before we dive in, I don't know if I said my name, but I'm Antoinette, and let me introduce Alan, my co host.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, stress. Can't be your best without stress. She just came up with that off the top of her head, by the way. That was pretty good. That was really
I
excellent.
do own an ad agency.
Yeah, and it shows. Good marketing. We also have in the studio with us today, Mike.
Hey, how's everybody today?
Oh, good.
All good, yeah.
A lot of stress in this room, right?
Yes, very stressful
Let's see
room.
how we can get out of it.
So stress, we all suffer from stress.
Yeah.
How we deal with stress, we all deal with it in somewhat different ways. And we have things like eating disorders that come from it or lack of sleep and all of these kind of things. So we think that stress is really part of the whole health journey that we're on. By the way, stress will also increase your glucose level.
Yep.
You can't control your blood glucose level if you're always stressed out. It just won't work because it drives the cortisol level that just whacks everything out of normal, which we aren't.
It didn't have far to go, is what you said?
Yeah, didn't have far to go on this one. So, what are your thoughts on stress?
So for me, it's one of those that, first of all, just to clarify stress, there's different types of stress.
Yeah.
So there's healthy stress, which is like, for example, if you go to the gym and you work out, that's a stressor on your body. And, that type of thing will make it stronger. Like even if you're doing fasting.
Yeah, that won't ruin the glucose.
Yeah, so that's a type of stressor. So we're not talking about those things. We're talking about like chronic stress, or if you're freaking out because all these things are going on in your life. Maybe it's not like chronic day after day, but you're just feel overwhelmed. These aren't healthy stressors. These are like mental stressors, things that are plaguing you, things like that. Those are things you really need to watch out for, and only you can determine if you're stressed. Because I know plenty of people that are going through the same exact things, and some people can deal with it, kind of separate what's going on from themselves, and other people are in the thick of things. So
it's a personal thing
it totally is. And it took me a long time to actually realize that, because I would, people all the time. I used to listen to this guy. What was his name? Wayne Dyer, who was like one of those. You've heard of Mike's heard of him. Have you ever heard of him, Alan?
No.
He has
I
these
live under
great.
a rock.
Well, he's above ground, and well, actually, no. Now he's underground.
See, maybe I'll meet him.
Maybe you'll run into him, but he's since passed. Yeah, but he had this one saying, which I thought was very interesting, that what happens when you squeeze an orange? And he would ask his audience this, and then he'd be like, it's not a trick question. Like, what happens when you squeeze an orange? And finally, it'd be like, orange juice comes out. I mean, it's not a trick question. But the whole point is when you're squeezed, which is the stressor, what comes out? So, for example, when you're under stress and all of a sudden now you're road rage, or you're getting angry or whatever, that's inside you. It's not the person that cut you off that created that. It's because it's inside you. So, for example, if Mother Teresa is driving and somebody cuts her off, she's not going to have probably the same like F you MF, like it's what lives inside you. So when I heard that really was a game changer for me. That was really kind of that tipping point of realizing if something's bothering me, then it's up to me to change that. And what can I do to that? And I started becoming more aware of what things trigger me, and then come up with ways to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's very interesting, because I may be the non-Mother Teresa.
I am.
You are, yeah.
She won't get away with it, even though she doesn't have a license.
Yeah. But yeah, stress builds up.
Yeah.
And as far as temper is concerned, I have this long fuse but it builds up inside over time, and little things like being cut off or whatever will bring out a flash, of negative emotional response
Yeah.
caused by the stress that I'm just building up inside and building up inside and building up inside. And there was a time, and I remember it clearly, I was used to have a pool construction company, and I was changing out a pool filter, and the pipes for the pool filter came out of this little concrete slab, and the pipes came up, and it had been there forever, baking in the sun. So as I'm trying to cut the pipe so that I can reattach the new filter, it kept cracking. The pipe kept cracking, and I kept getting closer and closer and closer down to this concrete slab, which I would then have to crack open and
Re-pour and
yeah, I didn't want to get there. Well, I did the last possible cut before the concrete slab, and it cracked. The
Oh,
pipe cracked again. So instantly, every word you can think of, and I picked up the pool filter, and it used to be next to the place was next to this little pond, and out in the middle of the pond goes the pool filter. And the thing is that as soon as I launched it, it hit me how stupid I was being to let all of this build up inside. And it was probably the stress and the everything inside of me that at that last piece was cracking it, because I was so I created a situation because I just knew it was going to crack
Yeah.
down to the concrete. So I think I made it crack down to the concrete. But when I saw, after I had launched that thing, and I saw what I had done and the release of everything, then I had to go swimming in the lake to go get it
Yeah.
and bring it back. That was the last time.
yeah.
That was my coming aware of my own dealing with things
Mhm.
that needed to be changed.
You bring up two different points here. Okay. One is that, as Antoinette was saying, she tries to develop something that stops her from being stressed.
I would have thrown somebody else out there, but nobody was there.
But there are cases, and I don't care who you are, as much as you work at those things, that stress will come up.
Oh yeah.
So the other side is learning how, as like you said, how do we deal with the stress? And throwing your pool filter into the lake in front of you, which is probably not the best way of doing it.
It worked. I wasn't stressed anymore. Well, yeah, I was. Just different way.
But a real key is that because stress comes up on everybody.
Oh, yeah.
So learning how to deal with it in a better way is what we need to be working on.
Yeah.
How do we deal with it so it doesn't have all those physical, mental effects on us that can get us in trouble?
Yeah. And the one thing with Michael, like he deals with a drug court foundation. He's part of that. So with addicts and stuff. And I know when my brother, he actually went to a rehab, up north for a while. And they dealt, that rehab facility wasn't state run. It was run by this little old lady who dedicated her life, and she wanted no funding because she wanted to do it her way. So she purposely would put these people under stressful situations so that they develop coping mechanisms, that they're not resorting to drugs or alcohol or whatever. So when we're talking about stress, not only can it make you angry and throw things, it could destroy lives, families, stuff like that, if you actually do not have the correct coping mechanisms to deal with it. Stress happens to everybody, to absolutely everybody. But, the same car cuts you off. You might not have expletives. You might have something else. But, it's working on those coping mechanisms.
And I think sometimes it also depends on in particular situations, on how your day is going. Starts out happy and you're down and everything's happy and somebody cuts you off. It's like, idiot. And you keep going. If your day's been miserable and somebody cuts you off, you've already built up an inner stress level that's affecting you.
Simplified.
Yeah. And it always affects you. Stress will kill you if you let it keep building up. You have to find opposite way or alternate ways of dealing with it.
And I think you bring up a really good point, because I know people that it seems like every day is a stressful day. Like they'll get out of bed and stub their toe, and then it's one thing after another, and they're always having bad days. And it's this constant cycle where you could, it is really a mental shift. Like I just actually saw this. I put this movie on the other day for my mom, and it was called About Time, and it was about this guy who time travels. And he had this one part where he would just live the day and go through, all the things that would happen. And then he gets in bed with his wife, and his wife's like, "How's your day?" And he's like, "It was terrible. It was a horrible day. It was, whatever." And then he went back to the day again to relive it, now noticing all the wonderful things that happened in that day. And all of a sudden, the same things happened, but instead of the guy blaring headphones next to him, he got into the song and, oh, how nice is it? And it was just these things that if you just do a shift, you can stop a lot of those things that aggravate you. And I think it's important, kind of what you're saying is, your mindset. If you notice you're in a bad mindset, the smartest thing is, rather than like plow through it, stop. And everybody should know things that make them happy. Is it a song? Is it whatever, going to the beach and staring at the ocean for 5 minutes? It's better off to take 5 or 10 minute break and do that than go the other 23 hours of the day.
Oh, yeah.
Because your first hour went sadly wrong.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, and it will affect you physically.
Oh, yeah.
It'll blow not only blow your glucose levels out of the water, it'll blow your blood pressure out. It causes stroke. It does all kinds of nasty things. So you have to find alternate ways, positive ways of shifting those things around. And interestingly, what you just said, when people say to you, "How are you today?" You walk into a bank or wherever, and the teller says, "How's your day?" They don't. It's just a be polite thing, And I always used to say, "It was great, but what difference would it make anyway?" Which was a very negative way of answering it. That was my answer.
Before I retired and before we moved down here and I was working remotely, I'd have to go into the office every day. And several times during that week, it could be a very stressful day in the office.
Hmm.
And that's the time I realized that I was kind of happy that my drive from the office to home was 35 or 40 minutes.
That was your downtime?
That was the time. So by the time I get home, most of that was gone. Okay, I didn't unload on my wife when I walked in the door.
Right.
I mean, there's times that I probably did if the drive wasn't long. But that was the key. So that's, again, it's one of the things you learn to reduce those things,
Right.
to help eliminate them, because it can. You keep saying it, and you're 100%. Stress can destroy you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's something like, don't quote me on the statistic, but it's something ridiculous. Like 90% of all heart attacks happen on Monday morning between like 8 and 10 because people are freaking out about going into their job. And it's,
Right. Getting back in the grind.
Yeah, the workplace, heart attacks aren't happening Friday at 5 o'clock when the whistle blows and you got the weekend ahead. It's to start the work week. So, when we say it could kill you, it's not an understatement. It literally can kill you. So it's one of those that if you're on a health journey, like I said, it's only for you to understand. But if you, realize that this is happening, it's up to you to correct it and find whatever ways. And like I said, find things that make you less stressful. Like when I realized, I noticed someone would do something silly or cut me off, and my first thought was something negative, and I just made a mental note. I'm like, oh, going forward, if I find myself doing something negative about person, I'm gonna try to find something positive to say there afterwards. So balance it. And I know I said this with a different podcast I do with Laura, but I remember it was like a New Year's resolution. So it was literally on New Year's Day, and I'm driving to the gym. So because it's New Year's Day, the gym's filled with all these people like in their pajamas who think that this is the year they're going to do it, and they can't even get dressed for gym, but whatever. So the parking lot's all full, and this one person cuts me off, and I was like, see you next Tuesday. Like I was just so upset by this woman. And then I stopped and I'm like, but you might be a good mother. Like I couldn't think of anything else to say. And it got to the point where now, it was hard at first and it felt forced and fake, But now I'm like, in my mind almost always goes to the positive when something happens. So my neighbor's tree fell on my house, and I'm not even joking. My first thought was, oh, wow, less pine needles to clean up. I'm not even kidding, and then I was like, yeah, I gotta, my siding's all damaged, and I dealt with that, but I wasn't like, and then, now I got it,
Right.
I still had the same thing happen and the same damage, but coming at it from a totally different angle was
Yeah.
very helpful.
Yeah. And that's exactly the right way to do it, is find the angle that brings positivity instead of negativity, so
Yeah.
that you can work that out. And as I was saying earlier, I used to say, what difference does it make when somebody would ask me how I was doing or how the day was or whatever. Now I say, when somebody says, "How are you today?" I'll say, "I'm fantastic," or
Yeah.
"I'm excellent," or whatever. And their reaction then is, "What?"
Yeah.
But I am
It
cool,
helps.
fantastic, awesome,
But
whatever.
even if you if you're on the phone and you just smile on the other end, alone in a room, the other person can hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not seeing your face, but you just come across happier. So to your point, fake it till you make it. You keep saying that, and eventually your day will be fantastic.
You'll create it.
Yeah, for sure.
I think you brought up an important point there too, because we don't know what's going on in everybody else's life.
Correct.
And we talk about those kinds of things too. When you see somebody in the market or something, even if you don't know them, and you smile and say, "Hi, how are you?" Those kinds of things can make it for them.
Yeah.
And I think in return, it helps you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those are the kinds of things you have to do. I mean, I know my biggest need and help to reduce a lot of my stress is to remove most of the Floridian drivers.
The drivers that have moved to Florida.
Yeah.
Hey, that's me.
It is just,
Yeah, but you didn't come from New York.
yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Oops.
You are outnumbered here.
That's right. Both of you are crazy New York drivers.
But I didn't bring my crazy. I brought my driving lessons with me. I got that far, but for 2 years I was driving back and forth from Daytona every week, and 3 days a week. I said by the time I get home, I was super stressed
Hmm.
because how many times you almost got killed by some jerk out there. So you try to learn how to get that. That is something I have to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if they heard me, I'm glad my windows are up. You wouldn't want to hear the words that come out of my house. But those are the kinds of things. And the other thing that drives stress to so many people, and I see it in the work that I do, is that trauma in their lives.
Yeah.
Brings up those things.
Mm-hmm.
How do you control it? PTSD, for those who are going through that kind of stuff. That drives stress levels way up.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, because during this whole reversing of type 2 diabetes journey that I've been on for actually about 18 weeks now,
Wow.
blows me away.
It was like
But
2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, and now it's 18.
Yeah,
It seemed like it was so slow.
crazy. But my mother-in-law recently passed away, and she was a wonderful person. I actually had a wonderful mother-in-law. We never argued. She didn't speak English, and I didn't speak German.
That might be why.
It could be one of the reasons. But I was monitoring during that time. It was during this journey, and I've been monitoring my blood glucose level numerous times during the day to get a feel of the ebb and flow of it during the day. And during the 3 or 4 days when she was, very ill and passing away, and then she passed away, and then we had to, take care of all of that. My glucose level, even though my diet didn't change, my day didn't change, the other things around me didn't change, but the stress of that situation raised my glucose level up. And I was able to actually record it because of the number of times I was checking my glucose level. But it proved that stress will definitely affect you.
Yeah.
Even though, I mean, it wasn't my mom, it was mother-in-law, but still very close. And I was, feeling the emotions from my wife. And it was interesting.
Yeah. And I think Michael also brought up a really good point about helping others. So, you know, like you don't know what somebody else is going through, but you know, a lot of times you could see somebody that if they're upset, or if you know somebody, let's say you're married or it's a sibling or something like that, a coworker, you can, if you know them well enough, you can tell. So don't spaz out on them like, what's up, you know, crawled up your butt today, or, you know, do something kind where it'll you know, help them get back with it. Like,
Right.
I noticed when I was dating this one guy, he was always kind of in charge of the radio. So and there was this one album that I liked that I noticed he kept putting it on. And finally I realized that I think he was putting it on because he noticed I was stressed out, because as soon as the first song was started playing, it was like all the stress would just leave my body, and I'd just be like, "Oh, I love this song." And finally I said to him, I said, "Wait, are you putting eh, are you putting this on to, you know, because I'm stressed out?" And he said, "Yeah, music to soothe the savage bunny," is what he said. And I'm like, "Why didn't you just tell me, like, calm down?" And he goes, "'Cause this works even better, and, you know, you're just back to being happy again." So he didn't put on the added stressor of now I'm annoying him with being stressed. And so to do that, to me, I was like, that was such a loving gesture, that if you know somebody else is having a bad day and you know there's an easy thing you could do to make their day better, maybe that's doing the dishes or taking the trash out, or, you know what, maybe somebody has been struggling with, you know, a particular health problem where you notice, just compliment them on the strides they made, you know. And you'd be surprised at how often people just something that takes their mind off that into something positive. It takes so little to change a mood. It really does.
And, you know, that brings up to me, we have a local business. It's called Good Vibes Nutrition. And Mike and his wife, Paula, own the club. But when you walk in there, it's always hello. And when you purchase, well, even, you don't have to purchase anything. Whenever he's talking to you, he's always talking and Paula as well, always talking in a positive manner, and he's using affirmation words like "we appreciate you" and "appreciate this," and it makes you feel good to be in there.
Yeah.
Even if you know that this is just the standard speech.
Yeah.
It's still a positive affirmation towards you, which, as far as business is concerned, makes going in there a pleasurable experience, even if you don't buy anything, even if, you still get the same positive affirmation back. And I believe that his life feels better. In fact, I know it has, because we've spoken about it, being positive with people, because he gets positivity back. Yeah.
Well, and then another cute thing they do is just write a nice little positive affirmation, like if you buy a drink or something. So then when you leave it, it's still with you, like a nice little thing where it's in the side of your dashboard or whatever, where you could look and it'll be so they really go above and beyond. But I think that's such a key thing. And here's just two people, and how many people you think they've touched throughout the day that probably were having a bad day and purposely went to his business for the sole reason of needing a pick-me-up.
And I've heard many people say that they just love going in because it's like he's their counselor, and he doesn't really counsel anybody, but he enjoys. You get to sit down and relax, unwind, get off your chest whatever's on your chest, and without any judgments. It's that really is an extremely positive way to live, to do business. I mean, it obviously grows his business tremendously.
Yeah.
But it's positive attitude growth.
Yeah.
And it's extremely important, I think.
Well, think of the word greeter, okay,
Greeter,
and how we used to see it. Okay, we all know there's a major big box store that used to have smiling, happy greeters as you walked in.
Right.
Okay, because you're going in to spend your money, you're under stress.
Right.
That's a reality. And if you make people more comfortable when you greet them with a smile, welcome to, that is tremendous.
Yeah.
Sadly, they don't have the greeter anymore, do
Well,
they?
if they do, they're all puss, because they have been not taken care of well either there. So I'm not
Yeah.
blaming the people that, but rarely do you see a greeter
Yeah.
and any of those things. I go back to also, I've been in the aviation industry for a long time and I traveled all over the country on a consistent basis. So I was on an airliner once, twice a month. And as often as I could, I would fly Southwest. When you get on board a Southwest airline back then, I don't know what it's like now because I haven't done any flying lately. Their flight attendants, when they got you prepared, teaching you what to do and buckle up stuff, they had an attitude to relax people and made them feel comfortable to reduce that stress.
Yeah.
Because you get on an aluminum tube that you know it's going to be at 45 or 50,000, 35,000 feet going, that's stressful for most people that don't do it on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And they would reduce the
Yeah.
stress levels by the way they presented those things.
Yeah.
And that was intentional. They hired people that had those kind of personalities that could do that.
And I think management plays a huge part,
does.
I mean, there's also a local, supermarket that's huge around here. And the level of service you get, you can ask a question. They're never going to get mad or, well, I was in the middle of stocking. They'll just smile. How can I help you?
And they'll stop sometimes and take you to the item that you're
Right.
looking for.
Yeah.
Be 6 aisles away.
Yeah.
They'll bring you to it.
Right.
And always asked, do you need help out to your car, stuff like that. And the other thing that I found that's actually kind of interesting too is, what was I going to say? They have systems in place that aren't like, oh, everybody's equal, man and women. Like I'm not saying that we're, but there's things that are better for a man to handle and there's some things better for a female to handle. So like I was there once and there was a guy getting unruly with a female. So they immediately knew there was the token male because you know what I mean? Where
Yep.
sometimes things get too politically correct where you're doing a disservice to what needs to get done. Like there's nothing wrong training, like in the event of a physical threat or harm, this person is the first to call, second to call, whatever. And I like that about them too, where it's not like, well, let's send this little 4'5" female that he was on top of to
Right.
When
deal
you
with
go
it.
when you go into that particular store, you're already feeling less stressful. You know it's a safe place for you to be. You know,
Yeah.
if you've got questions, you'll get them answered. You know, if you're lost on what aisle should I be on, there's somebody going to almost take your hand and bring you to. So those things help you feel
Yeah.
more comfortable.
Even if it rings
Right.
up wrong, it's free. I mean, it's those little
Right.
things. So it's not like, oh my God, this, was supposed to be this. And now I'm even later,
Right. Yeah. No, they go out of their way, just like Good Vibes that we mentioned earlier, to reduce the stress of the situation of you doing business with them.
Yeah.
And I think it's an extremely important thing for us as individuals to be able to reduce our stress because being positive isn't always easy.
Yeah.
But if you do it and you make a habit of it, you can reduce your stress, you can reduce other people's stress around you, and life can become more positive, and in so doing, your health improves.
Well, the one thing that you said earlier that I really want to piggyback on was you mentioned how to, talk it through or something like that,
Mhm.
where sometimes that's huge. You can't just always put a smiling face over an issue, but you could journal, you could call. There's plenty of places that you could reach out. Even if it's not a family member or friend that are, services like mental health, 800 numbers that are just there
Mhm.
to be a sounding board. Because the worst thing to do if something's really bothering you, we're not telling you to bottle up.
No.
Or like if you're, that's like the equivalent of, if your gas light comes on and you put a smiley face sticker on it. Like the problem's still there.
You don't do that?
No.
I use black tape.
Okay. But it is important. So there's so much in just getting out, and you'd be shocked. So many people bottle it up. The act of just actually getting out your feelings and putting words to them and expressing them is a huge stress reliever.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of times, and this is probably like a men and women thing, is a lot of women just enjoy it. In general, throughout history, we've been more communicative amongst each other than males did. So we find great relief in just telling people sometimes, like, something that's been bothering us. Doesn't mean fix it, doesn't mean whatever, but it just helps get it out. And I think for guys, same thing. Sometimes, they're struggling with something and they may not be able to, there may be no fix to it, but it is kind of shocking when you get it out there to just go, you know what, it just felt good to put words to it, and sometimes then you could let it go. Or if you write it out and throw it away or burn it, there's
I've
something
done that,
cathartic, to actually doing that. And that act of, okay, you had a huge fight with your brother and you want it was this horrible thing. So write it out, and then burn it up.
Yep.
Or do a letter. You don't have to mail it,
No, just write it up and get it out of you.
I did that consistently at my last job when my original direct management moved up and a new one came in who was terrible. And it was just every conversation was, and then we started doing more texting and emailing and stuff. And she would email me, just burn me right up. So I immediately, and then just put it off. I wouldn't send it. And later in the day, I could delete it, just a basic response, because every one of them would have been like, who are you?
Yeah.
You don't know anything about me. You don't know anything about my division. And you're being, no. So putting it off, you let it out, because I let it out.
Right.
Yeah, there were paragraphs to respond to one sentence. But that got it out of me.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to send it.
And it's important to not text or email when you're very tired, very angry,
or drunk.
Yeah.
You got that all right?
You can do bad stuff that way.
It doesn't,
No.
it can't take it back. I might send that person this particular podcast later today.
That was you I was talking about.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we're out
At a
of time.
time. No, but I think that was a good episode, because I think we really kind of handled how to, identify it, a couple key ways to target it,
Yeah. And then in the description for this one, I'm going to go ahead and put some phone numbers and emails and stuff where people can write out to mental health advocates and suicide prevention and things like that.
I do have one thing to add, which is quite funny. So I've been through a lot lately. Like, I've had 3 family members die. I've had like this house that a buyer for the house that fell through, and it was just like one catastrophe after another. So I was on ChatGPT and I was writing something about the latest catastrophe of somebody who was going to help me move, and then something happened and now I'm trying to find something. And rather than ChatGPT respond, it said, "It sounds like you're going through a lot." It gave me a mental, like, an 800 mental health number. So I was like, even ChatGPT gets it. So I took a screenshot and saved it. But yeah, I think that's a great thing to add, Alan, for sure.
Yeah, we'll do that. Well, you want to send us out?
Yeah, so until next time, remember, always be your best, and we're glad you joined us.
Bye now.
Goodbye.
Hello, welcome to Good Vibes Nutrition, where every day is Friday. Good Vibes Nutrition was created to provide an environment of self-improvement through health, happiness, and community. Whether it's to lose weight, build muscle, gain more energy, or make friends, think of Good Vibes Nutrition as your Flagler Center hub for healthy living, personal happiness, and long-lasting relationships through the examples of kindness, encouragement, introductions, and pure love.